We keep changing stuff, and when we change stuff, some of you come back and say, the other one was good, this one doesn't even receive my calls. So we are currently having a new group, and we are orienting them, we are training them. We've reached out to the banks we've hired, so we hope before the close of the financial year, they will be grounded. And we also say we are available. Some of us, we are so passionate about serving you, and you can attest that we are available. Then, tax refunds. In my presentation, I will not talk about your challenges. But as large taxpayers, we are trying as much as possible to fast-track some of your funds. Like in March, we paid out 42 billion to our clients. So we still have some issues here and there. You know, your CFOs know the challenges. Record is not coming, this and that. I don't want to delve into that. But this is one area where many people, some taxpayers, are aspiring to come to the large taxpayers' office because of the way we follow up on some of their challenges. They have also mentioned authorized economic operator. We are recommending many of you, and we urge you so that our customs colleagues can help you to fast-track your imports. And a number of you have joined, and we still have some who are there, and we are telling you that please improve here and there, and then we recommend you. Alternative dispute resolution, I will not repeat CG. He has talked about this one. And I know many of you, there are some of you, large taxpayers, who are willing to come out of court and negotiate. Please come and negotiate. And the basis we use is win-win. A win-win situation. If you say I am losing, let the court set a precedent and determine. If URA is saying we are winning, please allow us, the court, also to resolve. But if you find it is 50, 60, 40, please, the Commissioner General is here, Timo here, please write, and then they start the negotiation. So I commend those who have come out, and we collected, he never mentioned the amount, but we collected more than 360 billion out of court settlement. So I thank you very much, because it saves a lot of time. I know lawyers will not be happy. It saves a lot of time if you come and reduce on those costs of compliance. Then, embracing the new initiative at URA. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen our performance. We are struggling at 5.5 trillion against 9.1. Our target, our revenue target, was given basing on the use of 2 IT solutions, and that is EFRIS and DTS. But up to now, the large taxpayers, there is a whole presentation which will be given, but we are still struggling. And there has been some change in the law, as they will mention. So we call upon you that please, these 2 IT solutions, they will not allow URA to cheat you, neither can you cheat URA. So they are for balancing. So we are saying, why has our tax to GDP ratio been low? Where is the problem? Other countries which have adopted it, they have seen some improvement. But here, people are saying no. People are in invoice trading. I know some of you raise the issue of credit notes. When we tried it, toward the end of the month, you find everybody is issuing a credit note. When they stopped, then we saw some revenue coming. People not offsetting, but not you. Because at least LTO taxpayers, we've been in a net payable position as far as VAT is concerned. But others, it has been worse. So please, let us embrace these 2 IT solutions. They will improve on your business, and they will also improve on making a fairer contribution towards our country. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, at the moment, everybody is trying to protect their economies. So it's you, the prime clients, our prime clients, who can drive this economy, who can drive the use of EFRIS Because majority of them are your suppliers, are your clients. So it will be emphasized by the Commissioner IT. So revenue trends of the some various sectors. As you can see, in 2019, 2020, that's the blue, and then 2020, 2022, that's a red, 2021, 2022, that's a green. At the moment, you can see manufacturing. In 2020, 21, there was some increase. And we salute them because they are our biggest contributors as far as revenue is concerned. Then we are seeing a decline. Then you come to information where MTN and Airtel are. Yes, they have registered growth, but this is like natural growth, the organic growth. Then the big one, we have also electricity, gas, and steam. You can see 2019 up, 2020, 2021 down. Then 2021-22, you're also seeing there still they have not matched the 2019-2020. And as you move on, others don't even show anything. Do we only see the names? So, trends for sectors whose contribution declined. So we picked the big ones. Manufacturing. When you look at the sales, when you look at the sales, you see sales slightly increasing. The first one is manufacturing, which is blue. And then red, wholesale. And then green, construction. And then black, arts and entertainment and recreation, where you have some hotels. So you can see that there has been some decline. And that's what this one is contributing. We know the reasons for decline are for you. Me, I'm giving you as is. Then you look at the sales, you look at the purchase, and then you look at the revenue at the end. Those are the figures. You look at them. And majority of you are here. So please, when time comes for your discussion, the Honorable Minister is here, Minister of Finance officials are here, please tell them. One salute you once again for employing Ugandans. I think this one we can clap. Thank you very much for employing Ugandans. Because the employment income, yes, it might not contribute in terms of income tax, but the employment income has a ripple effect on the economy by increasing the purchasing power. Who will come back and buy your goods, and then you find yourself growing. So we've also picked employment trends. In 2019-2020, in the large taxpayers office, we salute manufacturers. They employed 143,997. And at the moment, after the lockdown, the number has increased to 150,850. And then the wage bill has also increased. Even the tax has also increased as you move toward the end. The same applies to electricity. But when it comes to construction, as I mentioned, there has been a very sharp decline in as far as employment, in as far as revenue contribution is concerned. You can look at those figures. And you are here. So we've not been visiting you, we are coming to visit you, but this is what we've been seeing. Is it true? Those are other sectors. You can see education. In 2019, they had 40,794. Currently, they have 33,315. And the wage bill has slightly increased. The wage bill now has reduced in the last part of the 2021-2022. So those are our figures. That's what we have on our side. So we don't know what you have on the ground. Then sectors with non-fiscalized sales. Non-fiscalized sales. So we have information, we've picked few. Information and communication. And that's where MTN and Airtel are. We've been moving a journey with Airtel and MTN together, but we're almost reaching an end of the journey. So I salute you for the journey we've moved, but we need to move faster so that by 1st July, our figures improve. Because when you look at the return total, out of 3 trillion, 3.6 trillion, you have almost 1 trillion of non-fiscalized invoices. And yet, you are the masters of IT. Then we have, the reasons are there. I know they are there. We've had challenges. Even on URA side, we have our challenges, but we need to move faster, as the commissioner will mention. Then we have electricity, umeme, and others. Thank you very much. You are almost there. Because when you look at the graphs, it's almost whatever they are returning in their return is almost fiscalized. So thank you very much. And then the others, transport and storage, accommodation. You can see also accommodation is trying. So, as I mentioned, EFRIS is a way to go. We are not going back, we are going forward. Call for action. I've already mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, amidst COVID in June 2020, we really got a lot of support from the old firms. We got a lot of support from the taxpayers because we are trying to salvage our economy. So at the moment, as we come toward the end of the June, when you look at it in the first quarter, we have a target of 3.62 trillion. Tomorrow is the end of the month for the first month of the quarter. But by the time I left, we are trading. And after here, we are going back to the what? To the trench to look for that revenue. So, in June, ladies and gentlemen, the CEOs, the CF, we are ready to support you, we as large taxpayers. And you know how we have really supported you, some of you. So I call upon you that, because at the moment, the changes in the economy, you find people opting to buy raw materials. And then they say, okay, we shall amend our provisions, we shall do this. So please, those materials, you use them when the economy is running. When salaries are paid, when soldiers are paid, when everybody is paid. So please, we urge you, we implore you, please support us. When we call you, please don't get tired of our calls. And equally, we shall not get tired of your calls when you call us in need of support. Now what has happened? Then, that one, number 2, I don't want to repeat it. The Gazette has come out. Some of you are supposed to be on system to system, as you receive the figures from the Commission on IT. So please embrace EFRIS. And finally, for purposes of managing your cash flow, they have already put a public notice please apply for 6% withholding income tax and VAT. I know last time the Gazette came during the lockdown and many people applied for income tax. They forgot to apply for VAT. And we are using online. They had closed the system, so we struggled. So please do it early. Look at that checklist. Do it early. Tell the CFO, account assistants, people are in charge to do it as early as Monday, so that we can support you instead of paying money in advance. Then you can manage your cash flows. I think that one will be the last session. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your patience, because I know you are the best time managers. The large taxpayers are the best time managers. Thank you, and I hope you have forgiven us because you are here grumbling. So please, thank you, and may God bless you for God and my country.
Asante sana. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with pleasure that we welcome the Honorable Minister for State, Privatization and Investment, Honorable Evelyn Anite. And with your permission, Commissioner General, would like to quickly have our last presentation to show you what's cooking, especially what is in the bag, in the kitty for us. And those two presentations basically will lead us into our deliberations. At this juncture, I would like to invite the Commissioner for IT and Innovation, Mr. Robert Mutebi, to quickly give us a highlight on what's cooking.
The Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development in absentia, the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, in charge of investment and privatization, our distinguished guests here, members of senior management URA, friends of URA, staff members of URA, I greet you this morning. Robert Mutebi is my name. I am privileged to be the first Commissioner of IT and Innovations in URA and to walk this journey of digital transformation together with you. I'm not going to speak for long. My task here is to tell you a very interesting story, and it will not be very long. But it's about EFRIS and DTS. In URA, we are obsessed right now with a passion to mobilize revenue for national development. And there are keywords there, in a transparent and efficient manner. And so you'll hear this word transparency echoing quite a bit going forward, because we want to be as transparent as possible and as efficient as possible. So for some of us who don't know what EFRIS is, it's electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing system. In very simple terms, it's that serial number that you put on every receipt that is URA's. For you to tell URA, I've made this sale, I bought this, and it requires that we receive that information at the purchase point. And DTS is digital stamping. If right before you have a water bottle, there's a stamp right on top of it. That's a digital stamp. It's declared by the manufacturer at the production line that this product is out for the market. And there are different stamps for the different types of products, and as we shall see. Moving straight into the presentation. Someone, I think, has shifted from the presentation to my face. And then suddenly my pointer. So EFRIS, we start where EFRIS is, the invoicing. So we have a database and an interface to that database at URA. Talk, which you upload, but it also then speaks to your system on the other end. There are 3 ways that can happen. You can use a web portal, and some of us who are onto this EFRIS platform know what you call portal. And then you can use your own ERP or point of sale software. If you are, for example, a corporate or a supermarket, pharmacy, you can do that. But we also have options for especially mobile services and also small SMEs. We call them EFDs, electronic fiscal devices, and petrol stations as well. So 3 channels that you could use to interface with this platform. Keeps your stock and keeps account of your sales and issues that receipt as you go along. And what we are observing, despite the conversations we've had, so this slide is really just about the 200 that are here, is that there is disparity in terms of compliance and integration to the platform. And from the different industry verticals, you can see how we are doing. But this is just for us who are in the room here. I will speak about a few insights that you could reflect on. The purpose of this platform, maybe if I can step back a bit, is to drive that transparency that we're talking about. But out of that, it simplifies our tax returns as taxpayers, and it as well allows URA to avoid the conflicts that we normally have in these returns, because it's upfront declarations, and so many other advantages. Speed of us being able to resolve all the issues that we have, do the declarations as we should, comes from this. Now, this is a formula that is very familiar to most of us who are here. We worry about this every day as business people. Gross profit, you're always looking at your net sales and the costs of goods you sell. From the point of view of URA, that system is supposed to enable us to also know what input VAT that you put into your stocks. And that basically is part of the cost of goods sold. And it's also supposed to tell us, what did you sell? And the difference in there is basically the tax VAT that you should be payable. What we find is that in as much as we are managing perhaps on our end very well, there is quite a disparity in the pattern when you follow the formula. And the reasons we can see clearly. So over the past 2 years, if you compare how we've been performing on VAT, particularly, this is a picture. So, for example, in manufacturing, we've been very appreciative that we see a lot of growth in terms of staffing and employment, but from the VAT perspective, we're actually seeing a net decline. And there are reasons around there. If you look at electricity, I think we're seeing the EFRIS compliance is very good, and we're also seeing an improvement. Wholesale, we're seeing still a lot of employment happening, which means there's really a lot of business activity going on, but again, a decline in VAT returns. Maybe what is very obvious for us, the arts and entertainment, we all know how much they've struggled, so that's not a surprise as we go along. Moving on from here, what do we pick from this simple information put together and from the field? There's a lot of non-issuance of these fiscalized invoices. And we can see the numbers and the areas where we're most affected. We can see that there is a lot of selective or partial issuance. Like really, I think in business we call it creative accounting. I'll only tell you what I want to tell you as a taxman, even if we have a social code that we should be transparent with each other. And so we're seeing that a lot, and I think that's why my brother Tinka is saying, let's get to support one another and roll out these solutions that they work for all of us. But we're seeing that selective issuance in transportation, in wholesale, it's big. Construction, really huge. Intermittent issuance, that simply means that today I'll give you the, I'll issue the invoices, the next day I'll do my own thing, kind of. And so when you look at the pattern, there's intermittence. And we see other issues like, and we know this, invoice trading. In other words, I go and find invoices that I'll declare as my input, even if they're really not mine. At the end of the day, at the equation, I'll be able to reduce my tax liability. And we've seen this practically in construction, mainly. And we also see rational choices of the interface that we use. For example, if you go back, you see manufacturing, normally there are huge stock volumes that you have to push out. But then somewhere you choose to use a portal that's very manual and very difficult for you to use. Of course, for reasons that perhaps we'll understand. There are many other things that we see. Invoice forgery, fraudulent credit notes issuance, decline in declarations like we've seen, and a lot of fictitious offsets that are carried forward so that perennially there's no VAT to be paid. You see some of us, and I'm not saying people in this room, but some of us, you're perennially in a loss, but you're running a business for 2 years. Practically, that is not possible, and we all know it. But we see a lot of us who are in this behavior. So what is URA doing? Like I said, we are moved to make sure that we are transparent and we collect revenue for national development. And therefore, some tax policies have been proposed to curb some of these challenges. And one of them is really around the Gazette that is on your table. To ensure that at least people who are in what we call a large taxpayers bracket, we all do a system-to-system integration. We will have to remove all these selective issuance and all that. So that is coming into play. But there are also tax proposals around declaration. Like for example, one of the areas we saw here was construction. Declaration of contracts for construction and extractive industry. Because, again, non-compliance requires that we drive to ensure there is transparency. And so there is a tax policy coming through. Now, any businesses, because of lack of compliancy, but there is an instrument coming into play to allow for that. Because as we look at the data, there are all those people who are not really partners and friends of URA at all, but they want to compete with business with people who are paying taxes. We have an obligation to make sure that we make the ground fair, and so some of these businesses will be managed from that perspective. There are also administrative measures that we are taking. One of them is the credit notes, how long these credit notes take, for example, to be approved by URA. So for those people who are very compliant and we see the evidence, we want to make it as easy as possible. Initially, we had this default setting where everyone can reverse a credit note, and we withdrew that. And Tinka was speaking about that and said, and we saw some jump in the revenue. But then we also realized that some people are suffering, and yet they are honestly compliant taxpayers. So we're introducing that again, but selectively to those who are compliant. And that's be coming out. We're also scaling up enforcement, because as we watch this data, I think if you are compliant with tax, you also need a fair hand from government and URA to make sure that we don't have competitors who are not necessarily compliant, because in the end, that money that they stay with gives them leverage, undue leverage. So we're going to scale up our enforcement in that regard. But this is all validation that we're doing, that you cannot be able to declare in your tax returns below what we see in the system. That has been happening quite a bit, and so this is some of the sources of the assessments and the conflicts that we end up with. So whatever is in the system will be validated at your return to make sure that there is compliance across. And lastly, an online procedure for deemed or special VAT. Those items that are not really within the policy, we are going to put that online. We've been writing a lot of manual letters, and it takes a lot of time to approve, to make sure that you deliver these services and VAT is accounted for. So we're going to put that online as well. And we're actually already done this work. Quickly, there's some policies again coming through on rental. I'm not going to go line by line on those. And again, administrative procedures to ease the customer journey. And you being our customer, I'm so sure you're very familiar with your own customer journeys. The more you improve that, the more you drive compliancy and profitability and harmony between the partners. So we're keen on that. We are revising all our customer journeys to improve efficiencies and make sure that we make the journey as short as possible for you to get, because once you're busy with your business, not with tax matters. And so there's a lot of digitalization happening around that place and reinvention of the process chain, value chain, to be able to improve service delivery. And clearly, one of the things that we target out of this EFRIS is make sure that these returns are actually simplified, that you don't have to input all this data yourself. At one point, we should be able to give you the information that we have, and your job is just to validate it before you do your return. So that's part of the work happening in the background for us to improve. Moving on to digital taxes, those stamps that you see on products, there is a number of products that have been gazetted for this. The first phase around cigarettes and spirits and wines, sodas and water, 2019. Sugar and cement came online in July 2021. And right now, we're implementing juices and non-alcoholic drinks and all those beverages, plus cooking oil. 1st of May this year, it's expected that stamping on these particular products will take effect. But we're also seeing very interesting patterns out there. This is the list, I think the most friendly, but it also, I think, speaks on why we need to speak to us, so that when we drive implementations of law, enforcement and the like, we are on the same page. So this picture shows us the friends who have gone ahead and bought stamps. And naturally, they expected to put them on the product. But when it comes to declaration of local excise duty, we notice disparities again between what was actually produced and we know is in the market vis-a-vis what is being declared in the tax returns and the local excise duty. And these are the compliant friends. We also have very many people who are not compliant at all. But just this year, you notice 52 billion is a disparity between what has actually been declared by the manufacturer that have done this, but is not reflecting in their tax returns. Before we speak about those who are not even declaring, and we know them because we've been looking at the data and the information. So again, consumed by the passion to mobilize revenue for national development in a very transparent and efficient manner, we're doing a lot of digging and understanding the patterns to make sure that those who actually are doing what is right don't suffer undue misadvantage and risks and in favor of those who are not. And so, What we see here, for example, in terms of risk, that manufacturing water is there is a lot of variance around that. Production vis-a-vis declaration. Beers, same thing. You notice I said that in manufacturing, we have a drop in returns. Now, there are industries that we know, and that data goes deep down up to the manufacturer level. The industries that we know, we are overperforming. When you look at their performance in terms of their books of accounts audited, they are doing such a wonderful job. But when you come into their taxes, they're actually dropping. Well, for example, we know in the beer industry during COVID, and none of them was shut down. The production volumes went up, the consumption was up, profits went up, but taxation went down. The number of staff went up. So these disparities we see, and in many other industries, cement, we see them. But part of this engagement is to really drive that transparency with each other so that we have harmony and we account for each other and we protect those who are not abusing this process. So what can we learn from here very quickly? There's a lot of unstamped product out there. We were in Kenya sometime this year, and one of the manufacturers who were very compliant with this was very appreciative of this system, and they were saying that it has helped them identify fake product in the market that has been circulating without their knowledge under their brand. And there's a lot of value that we can extract from compliance on this. Non-activation of stamps, they are bought, but they are not activated. Stamps that are counterfeit, stamp swaps, this means that that bottle that is 500 mils, it has, of course, a price to it, and therefore there is a stamp, a factory product, ex-factory price to it, and there is a stamp for it. But then we take that stamp, rather we take maybe a 1 liter bottle and give it a 500 ml stamp. Again, we see these variances, including variances, continuous variances, the ex-factory price, as if the production cost is going down. Some people declare zero ex-factory price. So in other words, it costs them nothing to put a product in the market. And when you look at this, you know for sure it is not being transparent. Under declarations of production volumes, we see that, and a lot of other things. So there's also a movement. We're persuaded that we need to also step in on this and implement some tax policies. One of those is enforcement, again, improve enforcement and be able to close down some of these facilities. Tax policies and the procedure code particularly is also providing for penalties. If we find this product in the market and it is not stamped and it can be traced back to the production space, site where it came from, there may be a penalty associated with that. And this 50 million is on per product. So if you have 100 bottles out there and they are discovered by different people, you may end up doing 50 times 100. Really to make sure that it's expensive for us not to comply. There's administrative measures as well on our part, enforcement again, but we also made sure that people who are buying stamps and not activating them are managed. In other words, you cannot order for stamps unless you've consumed 92% of those. So if you have stock of 8% unactivated, we'll be glad to give you new stamps. That 8% from the mathematics we've done allows you at least production cycles of a month. And normally the turnaround in terms of ordering for stamps is just hours. So there's no risk associated with that. Harmonization of SKUs. SKU here is a manufacturing term, basically to mean the brand and product that you have produced. So what we've seen is that sometimes what is produced is not exactly what is in the returns. So we need to harmonize that so that what we see in the production data is exactly what is in the returns. And again, simplified and pre-filled tax returns. We want to use this same data that you produced and put it in the returns, and you just have to validate it. Again, that will help us a lot to avoid conflict and these disputes that are unnecessary, wastes, I think, everyone's time who is in that valuation chain. So the story that we see is a lot of manufacturers, a lot of rather industries have disparities that we can see do not tally with what we know in the market and how the economy is performing and within what they declare in their returns. And we're doing a lot of data churning, but to make sure that we drive a transparent and efficient manner in the way that we do tax administration. I think that's all the time we had for this story. Maybe lastly, I want to speak about, I don't know if there's anyone here who does e-commerce online. There's also been a challenge around that in terms of how do you return your taxes, especially for those who are non-Ugandan. We've developed a platform, again, to allow them to register and to be able to track expenditure. Many of us here buy things online, Amazon, Netflix, and the like, who compete with friends of ours, let's say DSTV, who have to pay taxes. We're also going a step further to make sure that they also pay taxes because they have markets, and so they deliver services around here. So that platform is done and ready, and we're in the process of rolling it out. Make sure, again, we make sure the ground fair for all of us. I thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Asante sana. That is Mr. Robert Mutebi, the Commissioner for IT and Innovation at the Uganda Revenue Authority. Honorable Minister, before you is a C-suite class of industry executives, and these contribute 40% of the revenue collections by URA that come to the National Treasury. So these are very important and very dear people to us. And right now, with your permission, would want to go into a discussion. We have been talking, but we are more interested to hear from our guests. So may I have the microphones move around, and we manage time. So it's just a question of calling for a microphone, and you basically air your concern, issue, observation, question, and that will basically enhance our discussion with some responses. Do I have the microphones on the floor? We already have some hands there. These are very privileged people. When somebody has a hand up, make sure you run.